Alright, let me just get right to it. Rolex makes some incredible watches. Any watch you pick from Rolex is good value for money. Their watches are extremely well built, reliable, and hold value better than any other watch in the market today. That includes, of course, the latest iteration of this Rolex GMT Master 2. This Pepsi, this specific reference, the 126710BLRO on Oyster. In Jubilee in 2018, and Rolex released it back on an Oyster bracelet in 2021. But you already knew that. You know it's the same specs as the bad girl, just a different color for the bezel and the GMT hand. So this is not going to be a specs video, this is going to be a very short video, and in this video basically I want to go through how did this Rolex GMT Master 2 aka the Pepsi accomplish feat for the entire brand as a whole. Why do we lust over this blue-red bezel, and how long did it really take me to get one is what we're going to go through in this video. So no specs today, you know the specs already. Let's get into it. So this is what put Rolex on the map. This is the Rolex GMT Master 2 reference 126710BLRO, also known as the Pepsi. No confusion. I know the Batman came out and then it was a Batgirl and it was a Bruce Wayne. There's no confusion with this one. For 50 years plus, it has always been nicknamed the Pepsi. A bezel color combination that was born in 1955 with a 24-hour GMT scale. It's modern. The specific version with the Oyster bracelet represents the reincarnation of the classic in its most original form. This GMT was immediately a hit. It was a hit back then and it was still a hit now. I mean, it didn't go through phases like the Rolex Daytona when it first came out. No one wanted to buy it. Rolex literally used to give them in the 50s and the early 60s for free when you buy a day date. I mean, did you even know that? It was even heavily discounted after. Of course, this is no longer the case because now it's an icon of dependability. You can literally bail someone out of jail with Daytona. I mean, this is a story that I was actually reading online. I'll leave the link in the description if you guys want to go through it. But what I'm trying to say is that this Pepsi did not go through all these phases to gain demand and popularity. I mean, it was a winner from launch and even gained more demand when Rolex discontinued the 16710 in 07. Now, what constitutes monumental changes for Rolex is logically not that big for a normal human being. Us watch addicts, of course, are completely excluded from this perception. To us, this is a big change. This is a huge change. And what did Rolex really change in this 2021 release if you compare it to the 16710? Well, they beefed up the case, they brought back the Oyster bracelet as an option and upgraded the movement and kept the same bezel colorway. That's it. That's really all what they've done. And that's why I think Rolex is so successful. While other brands make rapid changes throughout all parts of a watch just to make it measurable for you. I mean, even with your eyes closed, you can literally measure the differences. Rolex picked a winning design from the beginning. From jump, they told you this is the winner. And they made incremental, barely perceptible changes. A butterfly effect approach to design and iteration, if you ask me, over a long period of time. It is a theory of how small changes can have big impact. A few major brands, even outside of the watch industry, had figured this out. I was talking to my wife and she tells me this thing about the Chanel classic flap. Apparently this is the name of the bag, and if you have bought one from 20 years ago and bought one now, you would see very minor changes. The design, look and feel is still relevant, and that's why we lust over these modern classic inspired designs, right? This Rolex GMT still speaks to our current day, so it's a modern look in that sense. However, the red and blue bezel, immediately when you glance at it, you know it's the language of the past. You know it speaks for the original, that is. This is a truly impressive design thinking, to be able to do more but you choose not to. Instead, you introduce very minor changes over a long period of time, and not even deviating from the original design cues so much is what gives you all this big impact. I mean, that's crazy. Color is key. The blue red on this variation is completely different than the blue red on the aluminum bezel. I understand that, but when you glance at that blue and red, you know immediately, even without a brand name slapped on it, that this is a Rolex GMT. This is the level of success that Rolex had achieved. For decades, Rolex introduced one bracelet variation at a time, so it's either Jubilee going back to Oyster, discontinuing the Oyster, going back to Jubilee. This is the first time since 2018 where Rolex had given you an additional option. So you have the Jubilee that is still in production to this date, that was released in 2018, and then you've got the Oyster that was released in 2021, which I think is incredibly smart, and it's personally what I'm excited for. I know that scratches will show more on the Oyster bracelet almost instantaneously as opposed to the Jubilee because of the center polish links, but it's the original look and I just like it. I was actually so lucky to have my ID keep the clasp stickers on it, and yes, I've seen videos where others would remove the clasp stickers on video as if they have to justify something to everyone, and honestly I think it's stupid. You're paying almost $12,000 from your hard-earned money for an amazing watch. Why not try to keep it fresh for long? I personally use the EasyLink 0.5 adjustment system multiple times a day, so I know I can scratch it on the inside. I sit with this watch in the office while I'm typing, while I'm doing a lot of things, while I'm driving. I know scratches and dings will happen, so why not keep it fresh for longer, or at least until you decide to remove the stickers from the clasp, that is. So we're only talking about the clasp stickers. Just simple. And again, this is not a specs video. The specs has already been covered on multiple videos. This video is to highlight the function, the fact that this timeless design is a design that you can trust. It'll always stay relevant. The reliability and demand. I mean, it took me 2 years to get this watch, and the retail price point, it will always make you come back to Rolex. I mean, that's how they remain so successful. I understand you get so much more technology advanced and visually pleasing watches from other brands, but only very few can make a new release so classic so quickly, and Rolex sits on top of them all. It's boring, but it's so good and it's so reliable. That's what this watch is. Oh, and if you're peeking at this 116500 Black Dial Daytona that I also got at retail, this is a video that is coming up. I had this watch for a minute, I just didn't have the time to make the video. So let me know your thoughts on this short video about this GMT Master 2. This is the latest iteration on the Oyster bracelet. Let me know what you think of it. Do you prefer the Jubilee or the Oyster? I would love to go through your comments. Until I catch you guys on the next one, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.